What players do you think would bring back a first-round pick in a trade for the Panthers? How many? It's actually kind of a good way to think of which teams. It's hard ever to compare players across different positions or overall team roster value. Right? I've said this a few times where the only time a player ever knows exactly what their value is when they're traded. Because in negotiations, right, you're trying to get more than your value, or your agent is, and your team is trying to pay you less than your value. So there's like an argument on what you're worth, and it's not completely altruistic, right? You're out to get your best deal. So you don't know exactly what you're worth. You only know what you guys can agree on. When you're traded, it's like, no, this is how much we're willing to give up for you. This is how much we're willing to accept for you. So Jared Goff, when he was traded, he learned he minus 2 first-round picks equals Matt Stafford. That he learned his value, right? Because it was Jared Goff 2 first for Matt Stafford. How many players on the Panthers do you think would be worth a first-round pick or more? Bill Barnwell, a longtime NFL reporter for ESPN, does a really good job with kind of thinking outside the box on his articles. He put on ESPN.com a list of all 102 players he thought would bring back at least a first-round pick in the NFL.
That's a lot.
3 of them were on the Panthers.
Okay.
Brian Burns, he said, would bring back 2 first-round picks. 2.
Okay.
Bryce Young, 1 first-round pick and change.
Okay.
So in additional picks or additional players.
Sure.
J.C. Horn, 1 first-round pick.
Really?
Which I get, because he, first of all, was the 8th overall pick?
Yeah, he was 8th.
And when healthy, has played up to that billing.
That's true.
When healthy.
Yeah, key phrase there, when healthy.
So a good team that expects their first to be late would probably give up a first for J.C. Horn, hoping that he would stay healthy long enough to help them contend once he comes back and proves that he's healthy and all those sorts of things. If you're the Panthers, you don't have a first-round pick this year. If you decide you need one, which of those 3 are you parting with?
Burns.
I wouldn't trade Bryce Young because, of course not. I wouldn't trade J.C. Horn because that would be an all-time sell low. You need to let him play. You need to let him get 2 months of playing time consecutively to build his value up before you pull that trigger, or else you're just selling him for a discount. You don't want to give a dented can special to anybody.
Unless someone does offer you a first-round pick right now for him.
I think it would have to be a good first-rounder. I'm not selling him for the 27th pick. No shot. Especially because if he plays well for a month, if he just goes out there and plays well for 4 games and shows he's healthy, mid-first at the worst, right? Why would you give that value back when it's not like you need something right now? You're no good. And then there's Brian Burns. The reason why I have been saying, I am saying, and I will say, leading up to the trade deadline, which is 4 o'clock on Halloween, they need to trade Brian Burns, is not because he is bad. But it is because he is good. The reason they have to trade Brian Burns is because he's the only one that's good enough to bring value back that'll help. You need a first-round pick. You don't have one. The only 2 other guys that Barnwell says are worth a first don't make sense to trade. It is undoubtedly not a great decision, or not a great position to be in. If you're a bad team, if you're 0-6, you want to be like, at least we have 4 first-round picks this year. You definitely don't want to say, at least we don't have any first-round picks this year. So you need to go get one. You need to restart the engines. You need to get youth. You need to get somebody that you might be able to agree on a contract with. Brian Burns is at this point, he just doesn't align with what you have as a team. And he might be able to bring you back a draft pick that is worth it. And if Barnwell is right and you can get 2 first-round picks, 2?
Yeah.
2? For a while, my son, who was 2 years old, he could count up to 2. He had 1, he had 2. Then who knows? You might get a 5, you might get a 9. He just 1, 2, 6, 9, done. But because of that, because he only was certain about 2, no matter what question you asked, you were getting 2, right? He would just go, 2? Would you like more? 2? How old is it? 2? Everything was 2. I want to have that same vibe right now. 2? You get 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns? Take it. If you can get 2 first-round picks for Brian Burns, take it. Earlier this week, I was advocating for a slow play. Wait till the market gets up. Wait till somebody gets desperate. Right up against the deadline when adrenaline's pumping. Use that to drum up the price higher and higher for a player like Brian Burns. If you get 2 first-round picks, yes, please. Absolutely. I would like those first-round picks. A trade we talked about earlier. The Matt Stafford for Jared Goff trade. That was a trade that came with 2 first-round picks, and the expectation was they were going to be 27-28, right? The expectation was they were going to be 32-29 because the Rams were good, and the Rams won a Super Bowl. So one of those picks was really bad for a first-round pick. The next year, it was like the 6th overall because the Rams collapsed. If you can get first-round picks, even from good teams, there's no guarantee they're going to be good teams for the second first-round pick. You can do, ready for this, you can do what the Bears did to you.
Yeah.
Get multiple firsts and then root against them, and it might end up being a top pick. Just like the Bears right now hold the number 1 overall pick in the draft because you gave it to them. The way it stands, the way all of it is situated right now, the Chicago Bears have the number 1 pick in the draft because you traded it to them in the Bryce Young trade. So you can imagine that number 1 pick is Caleb Williams, as Drake May, as Marvin Harrison Jr., whatever your little brain wants to run off to and daydream about. It's what you gave them. Brian Burns gives you the opportunity to try to do that to someone else.
And who knows what you can get with 2 first-round picks in 2025 because you'll have your own and whomever that you trade with. There's always the potential of you can
package those up and move up.
You can move up to get that one guy that you need, or if you feel like there's good value that you can get with multiple players, you could trade one of those first-round picks potentially, move down in the draft, acquire more picks to get more assets and more players to put around Bryce Young.
I always thought
build up your defense.
And kind of along the lines of what you're saying, I always thought, and I still think, that acquiring a bunch of draft picks is a flex by the GM.
Yeah.
You're saying either I'm going to make a great pick or I'm going to use these as currency, flip them for something else, and I'm going to get more value with my future moves than with these moves. I would be tempted. I'm confident, right? I would be tempted if I were Fitterer to say, watch what I do. You want that Kevin Costner, right? If you want to quit at the end of the day, go ahead and quit. But right now, let me do my job. Like the movie Draft Day.